And so it's always, what's the primary objective? Is it to generate leads or is it to generate, sales? And then we can start working backwards and say, okay, what are the other metrics that are important to know? How many people is it reaching? Out of those people, how many are engaging with the ad? Out of those, how many people are coming to the website? Out of those, how many people are going to the checkout page? And so we start reading the data, and just like any relationship, if it's not consistent, you move on, right? If the data is not consistent, you turn off the campaign and you go to the next campaign.
You're listening to the Black to Business podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Black to Business podcast. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall, and today we're exploring the world of technology and advertising and answering the big question, how to use digital advertising to grow your business online. Advertising has always meant billboards, posters, handing out flyers by the corner, and that one loud megaphone you hear selling the latest item in the store. However, with the dawn of technology and social media, how we advertise has taken on a whole new meaning. Whether you're launching your product or service for the first time, or simply drawing attention to a new sale, how you advertise or market the item is critical to not only generating sales, but to drive people to your platform and convert them into customers. So in today's episode, we are breaking down the key elements of digital advertising and helping you understand what it entails, the importance of crafting a strategy before embarking on online advertising, and ultimately, how to monetize your ads and grow your business. Today, I'm joined by House of Fofanah, digital strategist, entrepreneur, and CEO of House of Fofanah, which is aimed at developing technology-focused solutions to help brands monetize their online community. This is a good one, so let's hop right into it. So, Abu, welcome to the Black to Business podcast. I'm excited to finally have you on the podcast. It's been some time. We've been trying to get you on, but we're excited. So welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me. I know we had to, coordinate our schedules, but yes. we're here and I'm excited to be here. So again, thanks for having me.
Of course. So before we get started, I like to always ask my guests if you could just introduce yourself to the people who are not yet familiar with you. I know we see you everywhere, but if you could just share what it is that you do in your business, your story, and how did you get where you are today?
Yeah, great question. So it's I always struggle talking about myself, but to the people online, they look at me as a digital marketer, a strategist. So they see my ads everywhere. So that's how they correlate me as someone who is a Facebook or Instagram ads guy. I get it all the time everywhere I go. I could be, I remember I was in Dallas at Chick-fil-A and this woman was like, well, are you a boo? What are you doing at Chick-fil-A? And I'm like, well, get something to eat, I'm trying to feed myself. But so I'm a digital marketer. And for me specifically, I see myself as someone that finds the opportunities of where things are going. Years ago, when I was in high school, I saw that social media was becoming popular. Even though people thought it would be a fad, people thought, when Facebook first came out, back in 2000, and then they allowed people to advertise in 2008, people didn't really know what it was. And then Instagram comes out and then Twitter. And so a lot of times people joke around on it. But the younger folks typically pick it up a lot quicker. And when I knew it was here to stay is when I discovered people find reviews and feedback from people's Instagram and social based on their experience. And so when I realized that would be integral part of how people discovered new products, new services, I started to really learn more about it. So my journey took a long time to get here, really, of being someone who's really good at ads. It took me changing my mindset from being a consumer and saying, you know what, I'm going to be on Instagram all day from being a producer. Okay, if I'm going to be on Instagram all day, how do I maximize my ROI? And so through time, I really learned through my trials and errors, through taking other people's program, to being a coach, through spending my own money and getting my own cuts and bruises and experience, to really being where I am now, where people look at me as like the expert, because I've been doing it now for over 12 years, being and occupying this space. Yep.
Amazing. Yeah. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that 12 years in the game. So of course they should be seeing you everywhere. So that is right. Good for context. So I want to talk about you mentioned that people see you everywhere. I see you everywhere online. I think that is the reason. Also, it means that you're doing something right. And so for our guests that are listening and our audience, we like to look at those people who have businesses online, and they're looking to launch their businesses. So I want to dive into digital advertising and just starting there and understanding what that means. So if you could talk about what it means by online, because I know you own a digital marketing agency, but talking about what online digital advertising means and how this is different from your traditional advertising that people maybe have been used to.
Yeah, so this is a really great question. And one example I could use, I remember when I was an undergrad, I was selling products. I was running a retail company, T-shirts, and I was trying to figure out a way to sell my products to people that didn't attend my university. And so this was challenging because the university I went to was in the middle of nowhere, and the closest city to it was 3 hours away. And so traditional marketing and advertising say, hey, go put up flyers around your campus. But the issue with that is I could only reach the people that are in my radius. But how do I get the people that are 3 hours away? How do I get the people that are on the other coast of the country? And so this is where you think about, well, one way, is radio, right? Radio is one form of advertising, but a lot of times radio is local, right? So it still it has a jurisdiction. And so I said, well, what is everyone using that I could communicate them through? And there are letters and mails, but we know that just is not as effective as being on the platforms that people are already engaging with. And so this is where I started really thinking about, okay, traditional marketing, it has an effect if you're doing something local, if your audience is local. But typically when we're running businesses and these other entrepreneurs, typically what they're trying to do is reach people that are not their neighbors. They're trying to sell the products because they're trying to grow. In order to grow, you need to have more new audiences to get in front of. And what better way to do that than integrate with social media? And so when we think about paid advertising, because when people say digital marketing, it encompasses an umbrella of categories. There's social media posting, there's a social media manager. But when I say digital marketing and when I say paid advertisement, that's a specific type of digital marketing. So again, paid advertising is a specific type of digital marketing. Now, in paid advertising, you have Google ads, right? You got Facebook, you got TikTok ads, Instagram ads. And so now you have the ability to leverage these platforms as a business owner. And when I say leverage, I mean, when we're using these social platforms, they're collecting all our data. Now, when you decide to run an ad, you get access to all the data that these platforms are collecting on everybody that's using the platforms. And so therefore, when you run ads, you're running ads to the data, and there's nothing stronger than the data. And so for those entrepreneurs who are thinking about growing and scaling their business or thinking about starting their business and wondering how they're going to market it, the best form of marketing is by using the data that's already presented by running paid advertisement.
Love it. And you kind of did touch on, my next question is exploring the different types of digital advertising methods and how, I guess, each can be customized by the business based on, or do you think that matters, customizing which type of advertising digitally you're using?
I think when I think of customize, I think it really depends on content. You want to customize the content per the platform that you're using. And so we see this already with organic, right? When you're on Twitter, you're not just posting photos, you're actually putting words. When you're on Instagram, you're more so doing more visuals. And so it really depends on the platform you're on. You want to customize the content. But whether you sell products or whether you sell services, it doesn't really matter what platform you advertise on. What's most important is the type of content that you're creating for these platforms that you're advertising on.
So would you say people should also try to be everywhere?
So I would say people should start by identifying their bread and butter first. And what I mean by that is before I got into Google ads and TikTok ads and YouTube ads, I mastered, and my bread and butter was Facebook and Instagram ads. When I started making millions of dollars, now I have the capacity and time to hire people, to hire a team, to make more time for myself in order to start learning these other tools. So I would say for advertisement purposes, start with one platform. And if I had to recommend a platform to start with, I would suggest Instagram or Facebook ads, only because it has a lower cost per acquisition, meaning that it's a platform you could start with a smaller budget than you can with a YouTube or Google or TikTok and have the level of success.
Okay, so I have to play devil's advocate because people are listening and they're like, oh my God, this sounds amazing, but it sounds like work. So I want to talk about the importance of integrating this advertising into your business and how to incorporate it in your marketing strategy. So if you could just touch on why advertising is important for your business and how do you incorporate it in your marketing strategy?
Yeah, so let me start with the second one first. So I think as a business, you have to think about, one, you have to make sales. At the end of the day, you're not a real business if you can't make consistent sales. It's still an idea. It's still maybe a passion project. But if the goal is to run a business, businesses make sales, right? At the end of the day, they get customers and they make sales. They offer a service and they make sales. At the end of the day, they make sales. That's how they stay around. And so as a business, I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they'll spend 6 months, 12 months, working on their idea, building their idea out. They then introduce their idea, but then they're not willing to spend 6 months, 12 months marketing their idea, advertising their idea. And so when you decide you want to start a business, you also have to commit to the marketing aspects as well. It can't be 50-50. You could have the best business ideas. And I see entrepreneurs all the time. They have great products. They have great services, but they're not committed to the marketing side of selling. And that's where you justify and you solidify that you have a business. So marketing has to be a strategy. It can't be a one-time deploy, right? It can't be a one-time thing. You have to put marketing on the same level, put the same level of effort as it took to start the business idea. Now, when we think about advertising, and the reason why I, promote advertising all the time is because when I got in this space, when I looked around all the businesses that were making millions of dollars, whether beauty brands or services that were using Instagram, et cetera, a lot of them were white counterparts. And I didn't see a lot of, Black businesses using these platforms. Now, they were using it to go viral sometimes. They were using it as a consumer, but they weren't reading the data. They weren't using it as a producer. They didn't ask the right questions, right? They would just use it. They would give away their content. And then you see these other counterparts using their content, advertising their content, and making millions of dollars. So I saw the discrepancy right there early on. And so the reason why I promote advertisement, that has something to do with it. But the other aspect is, if you want to reach a bigger audience, if you really want to know if your idea really works, right? If you want to scale and grow your business, you have to be able to get in front of newer audiences and existing audience consistently. And so that's why I think advertising is so important for the mom and pop shop, right? For the solopreneur, for the entrepreneur, because you're able to grow a lot quicker. So my first business, that retail company I told you about, it took me 12 months to make $5,000. When I started advertising, it took me 30 days to make $5,000. Now, I'm not saying that, it's not commendable that you were able to make $5K in 12 months. I'm just saying why wait that long if you're able to make that in 30 days?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So there it is. This is why you should be doing it. So one of the things you mentioned before is the fact that you recognize that social media wasn't going anywhere. And as we can see, it's not, but also technology for those who are listening who maybe didn't start with technology and social media. I didn't. It was new. So explore how technology and the internet are paving a way for advertising, a new way of advertising, whether it be through content creation, digital ads, through Google, Facebook. How do you feel like this is paving the way?
Yeah, and that's a really great question. And this is, as a business owner, you wear like these two hats. Like the first hat is you have to operate the business. But the second hat is you have to be a CEO. And being a CEO means you have to know where the opportunities reside, right? You have to know where the puck is going to be, where the white space is going to be. And when you look at online and social media and the internet, I remember reading a stat and it said over 90% of sales were mobile. So you have to really think and say, okay, am I going to say, I'm going to go against the grain here? Or is it such momentum that I'm going to start riding some of this momentum and say, you know what, I'm going to dedicate a budget. I'm going to dedicate time. I'm going to dedicate a team in order to build it around marketing. And they're going to leverage these platforms. They're going to leverage these online and social media platforms in order to get my message across further. The worst thing you could do is decide that you don't want to learn anything new. That's a sure sign that your business will not be around in the next 2 to 3 years. And that's not being a good CEO. I see it all the time. People say, you know what, I've been doing it this way. Why do I need a change? Well, it's because you're not growing. If you're the same, is it still progress? If you're the same, are you still, and a lot of times people that are still doing the same numbers or still running the same business, they get tired of it because there's nothing new. And so as a business owner, wearing the hat of CEO, you have to ask yourself, and you have to remove yourself from the equation, because at the end of the day, it's not about you. When you go in business, it's about your customers and where they are. And if they're using these social platforms or if they're spending time online, then that's where your investments and resources need to go.
Certainly. And can you talk about some of, or if there are any, the disadvantages or the negatives that exist when it comes to advertising, digital advertising?
Yeah. So specifically with digital ads, the negative side of it is that the testing, it takes a lot of patience. And I told you, I've been doing this for 12 years and still it takes a lot of patience because you have to find the right image, video, the right messaging, and target the right audience. So it takes time. But the time it takes, and if you find something that works, you can scale that to 7 figures, 8 figures easily. But it's that patience. You have to have a lot of patience. And I don't see that a lot. I see people getting into it and wanting microwavable results. But this is an oven, right? Digital marketing is an oven. It's not microwavable. Now, you see people going viral a lot of times, but guess what? A lot of those people that go viral, they're not getting paid for their virality. And so you can see someone with a lot of followers, but they don't have that amount in their bank account. And so you have to really think about and say, okay, I got to have the patience. If I want to, really spend time online creating content, spend time online marketing, running paid ads. The other, I think, negative side of paid ads is, there's a cost associated with it. And then there's the learning that needs to take place. Paid ads isn't like organic. Where organic, I could download Instagram right now. If I've never used it, I could sort of figure it out pretty quickly. Okay, I need to post a photo. Paid ads, there's a lot of nuances. And so because there's a lot of nuances of figuring out placement, where's the customer, headline, copy. A lot of times it is daunting where people don't want to learn all of that. They're like, well, why don't I just hire someone? Here's another negative side. If you went to a country and you don't speak the language, it's a lot more difficult to navigate through that country. It's the same thing with advertisement. If you hire somebody and you don't know how to speak the language, now you're relying on them to try to drive most of your business sales. And if you don't know if they know what they're doing, then how do you know if it's ever working? And so this is something I also run into on, the paid ad side. So those are sort of three things that I see as I think about it right now. And then the fourth thing, I just thought of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The fourth thing is the other side of it is the privacy, right? So talking about privacy of data. And this is really big because, it's what's in the news right now. People are not wanting to share their data, or people don't know that they're sharing their data, and et cetera. So that's the negative side of just the internet, right? It's the negative side of the internet in general, which is data sharing and data mining in specific. And it's hard because it's like, I don't know if there's a way around it. If you decide to create an account on any system, on a bank, they share that data across the web. And so it's like, you have to be like, okay, I'm never going online. But it's almost like also like shooting yourself in the foot at the same time. It's this double-edged sword.
Yeah. And you know what shows up for me when you were saying that it's like the disadvantages is that, I definitely encourage people who listen to, especially with you starting off with you've been in this for 12 years, is that it takes time to get those type of results that you want. And you have to put in that work on the front end so that you're knowledgeable when you do hire people. So I think patience is something we have to practice, along with the fact that you said when you got into this, you didn't see us Black people really, advertising and seeing the importance of that.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. You have to know what you're getting yourself into, and you can't be scared. I know it may seem like a mountain, but guess what? There have been people at the top, right? And so that should motivate you to say, you know what? Okay, people have already done it. There are people younger than me doing it. There are people my age doing it. And so, like, for example, like I run a Marketing Accelerator. The youngest person in my program is 14, and the oldest is 78. The oldest is 78. And so let me tell you another stat. The program that I launched, and I thought that, okay, if I launch a Marketing Accelerator teaching people about digital ads and how to run Facebook and Instagram ads, it's going to be only millennials that sign up. It's going to be the people in the 20 to 30-year range. So I launched a program. And I left, when I was targeting my audience, I left it broad. I said, you know what, let me just leave it broad from 18 to, 100, whatever. My biggest audience group for that program are people 50 and over. 50 and over. The second biggest group is 32 to 45. And the last group are the millennials, 20 to 30. Right. And so imagine if I went in with the mindset that people 50 and up don't want to learn ads. They don't want to roll up their sleeves, but they're actually the largest group of entrepreneurs because they've lived their life. They've lived their life working for others. And they're at the point where they're like, I got my own ideas. I got my own things I want to pursue. And there's no better time than now because I have the disposable income as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And I also want to talk about your program. So discuss Power Your Lunch and its approach to, online marketing and advertising.
Yeah, so Power Your Launch, and the reason why I started it was after, 12 years of running my own businesses, helping other businesses launch and, grow to $1 million in a month or in under 12 months. And whether it's beauty, whether it's makeup, whether it's hair, whether it's retail, so products and service-based businesses. And then just my own journey of entrepreneurship, a lot of the businesses that I ran. So before I launched Power Your Launch, I used to run an agency. And that agency, I used to run ads for other businesses. But the issue was when you run a service-based business, what do you run into? Time. You can't help everybody. And so I would only be able to take on a certain amount of clients. I helped them make millions of dollars, but I could only help 8 clients at a time. And I had a list of a couple hundred that wanted to work with me. So then I had to make this decision of, okay, do I need to build out a team? But I don't want to manage a team. I don't want to do all that. Or can I create this online program where I could teach people how to do it for themselves? I'm not taking equity. I'm not charging $10,000 a month because that was my rate. That was my going rate. and I took a percentage of profit, and people would pay me because they knew I'd get them results. But I'm not taking any of that. And I said, I'm just going to teach people how to do it themselves. So Power Your Launch was born, and Power Your Launch really focuses on how to run effective marketing campaigns, specifically Facebook and Instagram ads. So we go through an intense training. It's around putting together campaigns, writing copy, which is really critical, targeting the right audience, targeting your most valued buyers. We talk about reading the data. And this is actually one of the most important aspects of the program, because it's easy to launch an ad. But what happens when it doesn't work? What happens when it starts to work? Right? How do you read the data of what you're doing? And so the program, one of the things that distinguishes it between any other program online that teaches ads is I'm really good at reading data. I mean, that's why I was hired at Wall Street. That's why I was hired at Big Four, right? I'm really good at reading data. And so the program, I teach people how to read data well. And because you can read data well, when you join the program, that's why a lot of my testing strategies are around low budget. You can spend $5 a day and still have an effective ROI because now you know how to read the data. And so the program is set up as a 6-week marketing intensive, which some people get it done in 2 weeks. It comes with coaching, and there's also a Facebook community of other alumni. We have over 10,000 people, 10,000 students from all over the world, all different backgrounds. And so you have access to that community. So not only do you get my brain, but you get a bunch of other people's brain who are lawyers, right? Who can help you with LLC and corporation, who are accountants, who can help you with, taxes, et cetera. So I think the program is really good from that point of view. You get the training, you get the community, and you get this coaching as well.
I love it. And I will say I didn't take the program, but I can vouch for it because my aunt, she did, and she always raves about it. She was so excited that I was interviewing you. She just loves it. And I know you work with Tanya Rapley as well, who was also a guest on the podcast. So it does work, people. So yes, I love that you're teaching, and just your story of how you wanted to help more people. I think that that's so key as well, because the audience that we focus on is, service-based businesses, and allowing them to, I'm sure the reaping of the benefits is creating a life that you want, you love. I'm sure that that's been something that you've been able to do true too as well, right?
Correct. And I think that for the longest, I would always build businesses and then think about lifestyle like never, right? And then one day I said, you know what? What's the lifestyle that I want, and how can I build a business around it? And so it really helped that I was running ads, because a lot of my ads are like, they just run itself, like it's automated. And so when people, see my ads all over, or they see me all over social media, but then if they go to my Instagram and they see I posted 3 months ago, and they're like, wait, how am I seeing? It's because I'm running ads. That's the reason why I'm everywhere. Like I'm just running ads. I'm saying, you know what? I don't want to do any of this organic stuff. I'm just going to run ads. It's going to find you. It's going to sell you, you're going to buy, and I'm going to get Stripe notifications. And I tell my friends, it's better than good morning text or Stripe notifications. That's life goals right there.
I love it. I agree. And I want to take a step back, and the things that you've been able to produce speak for themselves. Your work speak for themselves. I'm sure there are people who are interested in getting into the course, the program. So I want to take a step back and discuss ads a little bit more. How do you know? Well, one, how can people who want to merge traditional advertising with digital advertising? So I'm pretty sure with you mentioning your demographic, there were some things that they had to learn to merge the two. So how can people do that?
Yeah, so for my program specifically, I always tell people, leave your knowledge at the door, because I teach people everything they need to know from ground up around digital marketing. So you don't need around paid advertisement. So you don't need to have any experience whatsoever. But I think to merge the two, you have to say, like, for example, I was talking to someone. She runs a brick and mortar store out in Atlanta called Juice Heads, a vegan cafe. And so she has customers actually come in. And so I told her, okay, well, how are you getting in front of like newer audiences? Because I know your plan in the next year is to expand in other areas of Atlanta and eventually franchise into other cities. And so you want to start thinking about what that branding looks like, what that visibility looks like as well. And so I think you could merge the two, but first it's identifying, where do I want to go as a business? Am I trying to increase sales? If I'm trying to increase sales, I'm trying to get new audiences, then I need new marketing channels to take advantage of. Now, people are always so often quick to go vend at an event, right? Without any prior knowledge. Okay, I'm going to go vend. I don't know who's going to be there, how many people's going to be there, but I'm going to take my time to go vend. But then when you talk about, well, you don't got to go anywhere. All you got to do is log in and learn how to advertise online, and then you can run your ads from your laptop. For some reason, that just seems more daunting. But that has a higher ROI because you can actually track your information and data. And so for individuals that are trying to merge the two, one, you can. It's not one or the other, right? You could do both, but you have to have the time and the capacity or the team to say, you know what, this team's going to focus on the organic approach. This team's going to focus on the digital ads. Or, okay, Monday, Wednesdays, I'm doing the organic stuff. Tuesday, Thursdays, I'm doing the paid advertising stuff. So it's really relying on, one, how bad you want to learn it, and two, really looking at your schedule and calendar and saying, okay, this is how I'm going to move forward with making sure, because it's a long game. It's not next week. It's about, what does it look like 6 months from now? What does my business look like 1 year from now?
Yes. Yeah, that's such a great example because, I know a lot of people still, are vending. And to me, I never thought about it like that. Reach.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember her, the one that had the cafe out in Atlanta. I remember it was Super Bowl weekend. So what she decided to, she realized, okay, the Super Bowl is far away from where she was, where her brick and mortar store was. So she decided to run ads around the stadium to drive people to her store. Right. So again, it's not one or the other. Like she could have went and stood in the corner with like her sign, but you could only get to a certain amount of people. And those are the people that walk by that corner. But because she was running ads all around the stadium, it was anyone that opened up their phone and went on Instagram or Facebook. And so it's just a different way of thinking about, visibility.
Or thinking. And Abu, how do you know if something or what you're doing is working or not?
Yeah, so there are these things I talk about in a program called primary and secondary metrics. And this is where we go into like the data aspect of reading the information that we're receiving once we publish our ads. But one, the primary metric we could look at is just sales, right? Our sales coming in, right? That's a primary metric. Now, if you're doing the lead generation and say, you know what, I'm going to give someone the discounts, and when they're at my shop, they're going to say the discount code, so that's like lead generation. They sign up, and then on the confirmation page, there's a, hey, use this code when you're at checkout, right? That's generating leads, and then you're confirming those leads when they come to your store, or when they come to your website to take that service. And so it's always, what's the primary objective? Is it to generate leads, or is it to generate, sales? And then we can start working backwards and say, okay, what are the other metrics that are important to know? How many people is it reaching? Out of those people, how many are engaging with the ad? Out of those, how many people are coming to the website? Out of those, how many people are going to the checkout page? And so we start reading the data, and just like any relationship, if it's not consistent, you move on, right? If the data is not consistent, you turn off the campaign and you go to the next campaign.
And I know, people could check out your program. So I want to see if you could give us a teaser. How do you run like for someone who's interested in getting started? What advice would you give them in terms of like starting? So running an ad, planning for an advertising campaign. So checklists, processes that you would like to share.
Yeah. So this is always hard because I remember one time I was on stage and I told someone, I told someone like something specific, and they thought that was the key of all ads. And so let me preface by saying what I'm about to say, this is a portion, right, of running effective ads. There's no one thing that makes an ad successful. It really is the entire thing, right? It's just like baking a cake. Just because, you have all the ingredients, there's no one ingredient that's the primary thing of the cake. You have to use all of them in order to get to that end result. Right. And so I think, one, adopting that mindset of, okay, it's not one thing, it's many things. And two, just understanding what's my objective. And I see a lot of people get inside the ads manager to try to run an ad, and they just start clicking around because they don't really understand what their objective is. What are you actually trying to drive here? And then the other thing to think about is, where am I sending people to? Because when you run ads, you have to send them to somewhere. And that somewhere, is it a website? Is it to your social page? Is it to a checkout page? Is it to a registration form? Is it to an intake form? And then if you're sending them that place specifically, what do you have on the website? I always tell people, ads amplify. They're not a magic bullet or a magic potion. So if you're sending people to a website and there's nothing on the website, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to make any sales. If you're sending people to a website and it takes 10 hours for the website to load, guess what's going to happen? They're going to leave the website. And so you have to really be conscious of ads drive people, right? It's just like that saying that, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Ads drive people to your destination, but your destination also has to be able to convert customers. It has to have the testimonials, right? So when you think about the way you shop, when you go on Amazon, what are the things that you're looking for? And do you have those things on your website? Typically, people do not. And so they run ads to websites that are broken, and then they say, oh, it's ads. Oh, my God. And then you go check out their website, and their website's not that great. It's not that great. So what is that customer experience from when they see your ad to where you're taking them? The technical aspects of running ads and targeting and filter, that's going to vary. It's always going to be different variations depending on the audience that you're trying to get in front of, depending on the objective that you're trying to run the ads for. And in the ads manager, I think right now there's about 8 or 9 different objectives from, do you want to drive traffic? Do you want to drive leads? Do you want to drive registrations? Do you want to drive conversions? And so that's really dependent on the overall strategy of where am I sending people and what action am I trying to get them to perform? What one action, not 10 actions, what one action that I'm trying to get them to perform? The thing about marketing is you want one action at a time. If you try to lead someone to a website and you're trying to get them to do 10 actions, no action will be performed. If you lead someone to a website and you're trying to get them to perform one action, there's 100% chance that one action will be executed. And so what I'm talking about here is just like understanding your customer journey of running the ad. Again, the technical aspects will always vary depending on what you're targeting, but the journey of it, of seeing the ad to the website, to the conversion, will always stay the same. So think about your own customer journey. One exercise I have people do in the program is, let's map out your flow. From when someone sees your ad, where are you taking them? Okay, what's here on this page? Okay, what's the next page they have to click on in order to check out? Okay, what's the next page? Until they become a customer, then we evaluate the page and we rank it on a scale of 1 to 10. Would this page, if we were our customer, is this page making me want to buy? And typically it's like, no, well, not really, right? And another thing you could do is you could ask a peer of yours to say, okay, here's an audit. Can you go to each of these pages and let me know, is it pulling out your emotions? Is it making you want to buy? And so you have to start asking these specific types of questions around your customer journey.
That was amazing and so valuable, and so many lessons in that. I think it's so important and key to have a customer journey. And one of the things you mentioned is the fact that, and I see it so often too, is that people running ads to broken websites and they're blaming it on the ads, like you mentioned. So you talked about monetizing. So I want to dive into that just a little bit more. So monetizing your ads, how to, and what does that look like? Because you mentioned it's not just I'm running an ad and I get money. So what does monetizing the ad look like?
Yeah, so monetizing is about consistency. So I always tell people the biggest difference between making a sale and monetizing is about the consistency. So monetizing is about systems and processes that you have in place in order to auto-generate leads and sales. And so it's sort of like think of it like a subscription. Subscription, okay, every month I have to pay this. Or every month as a business owner, a certain amount of money is coming in because you have a certain amount of customers. And so monetizing is about consistency, systems, and processes. And so when I say monetizing, I mean, what's the overall structure of your business? And so now we get in a business model, right? What's the overall structure of really converting your audience? And so that's what monetizing means. It's about selling. Now, I can't tell you how many business owners that I know that have an Instagram, but have never sold anything. They don't even tell their audience what they sell because they've adopted this mindset that selling is bad. Monetizing is bad. No one wants to hear about me selling every day. But I'm here to tell you, monetizing is about selling every day, right? It's about selling your products and services and engaging with your customers, the whole process from beginning to end. But it's the mindset of, I'm trying to drive ROI. I'm trying to drive sales. My time is worth the ROI. And so that's what I mean when I say monetizing. And the difference, again, sales, sometimes you make a sale, but you don't even know where it came from. You can't even track it. Sometimes that sale came from a family member because they're supporting you. And let me tell you something. If your business model is around your friends and family supporting and buying from you, that's not a good business because it's validated by strangers, people that don't know who you are, right? People that don't have an idea about your service, but reading about it or learning about it and saying, this is something I need. And so monetizing is this mindset adopting around, okay, I'm in the mindset of making sales when I'm online and on social media. And I'm trying to do that by building the right processes, the right systems where people could find me. I lead them to my website. I have things on my website that convert them, whether they want to hear a testimonial, whether they want to see a review, right? Whether they want to see a retargeting ad, whether they want to see other counterparts, comparisons, whatever that is, in order to make sure they keep going down the customer journey. So again, that's about building the systems and processes. And that's what I mean when I say monetizing.
Yes, we have to stop thinking selling is bad. This is how we live. This is how we create and make impact. That's a whole nother topic. But yeah.
That's a whole nother topic. You're right about that.
So speaking of, money, and I want to talk about people and budget. So what advice do you have for business owners? Because of course we help startups and people who are in that startup journey with small budgets.
Yeah, so I say you could still be impactful with a small budget. I remember reading a quote that said that if you don't think something small could have a big impact, try sleeping with a mosquito or something like that, right? Ooh. And so you could definitely have an impact with a small budget. So my program specifically, I teach people how to be effective with spending $5 a day on advertisement. Now, with that said, there is a testing phase that needs to occur, right? So you do need a budget for testing $5 a day if you're running 3 ads a day, $15 a day, until you find an audience that converts, and then you make up your money and you make even more, et cetera. Now, in terms of just like marketing itself, this is my framework. If you have a small budget, you need to have a high level of effort when it comes to marketing. So you can't have $5 to your name and not want to stand on the corner to sell your product or your service, right? That just means now that you don't want it as bad. Because if all you have to your name is $5 and you have no other additional money, you have to then be willing to do whatever it takes to have a high level of effort to manually show up and vend, to manually show up to talk about your services. You have to have that. Now, if you have a high budget, you have a low manual effort, right? Because you have more money to deploy. And so that's sort of the scale, low budget, high effort when it comes to marketing. High budget, lower effort when it comes to manual marketing. And so that's sort of the framework itself. But the other thing to think about is if you're going to be in business, you have to be willing to allocate a budget specifically to marketing, because this is the only way you're actually going to sell anything is you're going to need a marketing budget. You're going to need a marketing budget. Start small, however small it is, but you're going to need to have a marketing budget.
Love it. So you got to put in the work.
Got to put in the work. Ain't no such thing as easy success. Right. If it was, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Everyone would be, living in a mansion. Everyone would be successful, but it's not how life works, right? You have to be willing to put in the work. And that's something Tanya says all the time. Tanya Rapley, who was on your podcast, you have to be willing to put in the work.
Yes. And speaking of putting in the work, you've given us so much valuable content, valuable just information. How does one, go about, they've listened and they're interested in doing the work, but creating a strategy, a plan around implementing these things. So whether it comes to, what does this entail? Like your target audience, thinking about them, how do you get ahead of your competitors, or et cetera?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I think that there has to be like this level of commitment to learning about something that you may not be familiar with, right? Something that may be new or may seem daunting to you. You have to have that mindset of commitment to learning. The second thing is really understanding where are you in your business. So evaluate your last 6 months and see, okay, are you growing or are you going in the direction that you thought you would? And if not, be honest with yourself now and say, well, why am I not? What am I not doing? Right? What am I doing well, but what am I not doing? What's sort of the blocking me? Maybe it is you need a co-founder that's more technical than you, right? Maybe it is you need a team, right? Because you need the time to be able to learn, right? So sometimes it's not even related to marketing yet. Sometimes it's other issues that people just haven't made the decision around. Now, when we talk about marketing specifically, if you do want to go that route, then you need a plan to say, okay, I need a budget. Maybe your budget is going to start at $200 a month and it's going to grow from that, right? It's going to grow. Maybe then the following month is $300. So, okay, what's my budget that I'm going to be playing with in terms of marketing? The next thing after that is decide which marketing channels that you want to spend your effort around. So is it the Twitter, right? Is it the YouTube ads, right? Is it Facebook or Instagram ads? You need to pick and choose a channel. Once you choose a channel, then comes the learning aspects of it and saying, okay, I need to figure out who my audience is. But before you could do that online, you have to be able to do that offline. What does my audience actually look like? What are they reading? What's the demographics? What's the psychographics of my audience? And then once you have an idea of that customer profile, once you have the idea of the direction you want to go in as a business and your objective of where you see yourself in the next 3 to 6 months, then it's a lot easier to double down in the digital marketing and the paid ads and, the direction that you want to go to bring that ROI or return on investment for your business. But you have to make that decision and commitment to say, okay, I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for 1 week. No, I'm doing this here on now, moving forward.
Love it. So there you have it, folks, a plan of action to get started. So it's not so overwhelming or it doesn't seem achievable. So Abu, if I was a business owner wanting to work with you, how could you help me?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I can help you. Right now, I run the Power Your Launch Marketing Accelerator. It's a 6-week marketing intensive that teaches you how to run paid ads, specifically Facebook and Instagram ads. We talk about copywriting. I teach you how to write copy. I teach you how to write headline. I teach you how to target your audiences, about 6 or 7 different ways, how to do research around finding your ideal audience as well. I also teach you around strategy, around scaling and retargeting your customers. And so that's how you could work with me. Again, you could go to poweryourlaunch.com, and you'll be taken to the sales page, which will tell you a little bit more about the program in detail. So that way you can understand what you're getting yourself into. But it's a really, really great program. It's intuitive. It's digestible. It's 98% video based. So there's videos for everything. I'm a visual learner. And so I show videos for everything, how to do it step by step. And then there's a workbook that accompanies the video trainings. And so in this workbook, it's a fillable workbook. You could use it on Google Doc. You could print it out. And you could go through this workbook while you go through the program. And the workbook is really for retainment, to make sure you understand and comprehend what you just went through. And then it comes with group coaching, a monthly group coaching, and also a Facebook community of other business owners, entrepreneurs, alumni. And the reason why that's important for me, the community, is for the longest, I was the only entrepreneur in my friend group. And I know a lot of people are like that, right? They're the only business owner, entrepreneur in their friend group, or they may be the only ones that are generating $10,000 a month consistently. But now you have access to a community of people who are doing 10 steps ahead of you, who are in the same journey where you are, and who are also just starting out. And so you have that community support. And so that's how I work with people today. Now, I no longer provide services because I always get a bunch of DMs all the time. I used to run an agency, and that was years ago. And the reason I no longer do that is because I don't have the time capacity, and all my time is spent in my Marketing Accelerator teaching people how to do it themselves and how to have results doing it themselves. So that's the only way currently I work with people is through my Power Your Launch Marketing Accelerator. And it's all virtual. It's all online. You can do it from home.
Love that. And I love that you have, you were able to, I'm pretty sure people can learn, make that decision to have a simple business model.
Correct.
So yeah, you can live the life. And I just want to get a quick question about Abu. So do you have any favorite tools or resources that you've used that have helped you in your entrepreneurial journey?
Favorite tools that I've used that's helped me in my entrepreneur journey. One, I think a journal, because a lot of times as an entrepreneur, I have so many ideas, and a lot of times I'm in my own head. So I bought a journal, but it's blank pages. There's no lines because, that's the way my mind works. So journaling has helped me a lot in my entrepreneurial journey, especially. The other thing I think that's helped me was looking at people that was sort of the type of leaders that I aspired to be. So these are people that could be online, and you're just following them to see their insights, their thought process, their decision making, because a lot of times we may not have a mentor around us. So the easiest mentor is maybe the mentor you don't know, but you admire them and their decision making. You want to learn more about them. And so you're following them on social media at that capacity, or reading their newsletters that you signed up for as well, or reading the books that they might have released, right? So these are things that are cost effective that I shared. I think the third thing that's really helped me along my journey outside of tools is just that this community of finding people that I could have these conversations with. And the reason why, in the past, I used to be so hesitant of having conversations with people around the money I was making or the money I wasn't making had more to do with them and not me. Right. And so I had to realize, I'm in this new stage. And so I need to find people that are at the same stage as me as well. Now, in terms of technical tools in my business, especially, one thing that my team uses, because I have a team now, is Slack. We use Slack to communicate with one another. Our project management, we use Asana, especially to communicate with one another. So those are technical tools that we use. But then the other tools are just life tools that Abu uses right now in order to really grow mentally.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. And Abu, what does it mean for you, or what does it mean to you being a Black business owner?
Yeah, it means everything, right? It means that it's possible. And then the reason why I say that is I remember when I was in high school and I got into this mentorship program. And in the mentorship program, I was assigned to this businessman. So I go into there, and it was all Black mentors. It was Black people that were lawyers, doctors, business people. And this was the first time in my life that I was around them in person, because I've seen them on movies, I've seen them on TV shows, but I was actually never around a Black doctor, a Black lawyer, Black businessman until I was in sophomore in high school. And so I think now the visibility does matter. Visibility does matter because it gives you different aspirations. So for me, it could inspire someone else that said, oh, I didn't know that this was possible. And so to me, it means everything because it gives people the imagination that they need to say, that could also be me. And so it's important.
Right. Love it. And how can people connect with you and support you in any upcoming projects?
Yeah. So one, you could go to follow me on Instagram at Abu Fofanah. That's ABU FOFANAH on Instagram. Also, you can go to poweryourlaunch.com if you are interested in enrolling in the Marketing Intensive, Marketing Accelerator. We'd be glad to have you. But those are the two places. And don't worry if you don't remember anything I said. If you don't remember this interview, just know you will be seeing me, right? Don't find me. I'll find you. I'll find you. Trust me.
Oh, that reminds me. I have to ask you now. That ad that is the funniest ad ever. Like,
which one?
The one where the girl's like, Abu is here. He's everywhere. Like, how did that come about? You have to tell us the story behind it.
Oh my God! So what she's referring to is there's this ad, and in the ad are these two women, and they're driving somewhere, and one woman's recording the other woman. No. Yeah, so there are two women. So one woman's recording the other woman, and she sees my ad. And so she starts screaming. She's like, oh, my God, if I see Abu one more place, he's everywhere. And they both start yelling and say, oh, my God, he's everywhere. So those two women are friends of mine. But I didn't know that happened. I remember they tagged me on Instagram stories. Because so this thing was on Instagram stories, and I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious. And then I was like, 30 minutes later, I was like, wait a second, this would be great to run ads around. And so I reached out to her. At first I tried to screen record it, but I was like, it didn't really look the same quality. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, is there any way I could use this? Can you download it for me? And send it to me. And can I use this as an ad? I think it'll be great. I think it's hilarious. And so they gave me their permission. And then I said, okay, great. And then I took that content, I ran it as an ad, and literally everyone loves that piece of content. Everyone laughs, starts because it's so relatable, and so it's so yeah, that's how that came about.
Yeah, I just every time I see it, I crack up like I've never seen it before. And I'm like, this guy is genius. And you can just tell it's just so organic. It was so hilarious, but it works. And it just speaks to what you're doing. You're doing it. So amazing. But I just love the story behind that. But Abu, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for, lending us your knowledge and your value. And we really appreciate you being here.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to listening to this episode as I have other episodes that you have. You're doing really, really, really amazing work in the community. You're doing legacy work, right? And I think that's really important to acknowledge. So thank you for the work that you're doing and for having this podcast and putting the spotlight on other individuals as well and being so selfless. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for your kind words. I don't know about you, but this conversation has me rethinking the way that we market ourselves here. We speak a lot about how we can utilize evolving technology and social media to push our services to potential customers, but we never truly understand the process behind this. And Abu truly laid out the mind map for us on how to best create a strategy for our digital advertising that weeds out the bad kinks such as a broken website and glitches in our services. He also highlighted the importance of strategizing your process and being patient enough to put in the work and reminding us that even with a small budget, you can create meaningful adverts. I suggest you have this episode on constant loop and find the little gems and processes that were laid out throughout this conversation. Times are indeed evolving, and that doesn't mean you have to be left behind. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to check out blacktobusiness.com/64 for complete show notes and resources mentioned during this episode. And if you haven't already, please be sure to leave us a review and rate this episode and our show to let us know how helpful this has been for you. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week, same time, same place.